Welcome back to Equal Time Soccer. I am Mark Pravratsky here, joined with a Minnesota Dutch Lions episode, fresh off their rebrand to join one of the broadest soccer networks of these semi-pro aspiring teams in the United States. Formerly Rochester United FC, for people who have followed our coverage in past years. Right now we have head coach Bassem, Fadlia, and Dave Bahr. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
So I was trying not to waste material. We were chatting a little bit before we started, but start with you, Bassem. You've been a part of the team for a few years.
Mhm.
How did you initially become the coach at what was Rochester United, now the Dutch Lions of Minnesota?
Mhm. So in Rochester, it's not a big community. Like all the soccer people knew each other. So Rochester United started in 2019. So in that year, I got to know the owner a little, and I volunteered with some stuff. I was going to help in 2020, but that was canceled because of COVID. So I started in 2021 as the assistant coach, and we also had like a reserve team. So I was the head coach of the reserve team and helping with the first team. And then in 2022, we were supposed to have another head coach, but very early in the season, he was from I'm trying to remember, Chile or some Latin American country, and he had a family emergency back home and needed to leave. So I stepped up to become the head coach that year and have been the head coach ever since.
What had your coaching experience been prior to that? Because I know we were talking, I know
Mhm.
you've been in the game, personally, but I've never, for the record, I have never coached a team. I'm kind
Mhm.
of interested in like being a little assistant, to learn a little bit about it, but how much had you coached before that?
So I started coaching youth. It started with my kids. So from their
Hmm.
5, 6 years old, the recreational level,
Hmm.
it was new to me. I mentioned to you before the episode that I was into soccer, but I haven't formally been in soccer practices and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
in the beginning, I started with the youth recreational soccer and then traveling soccer and growing up with my children's teams and then thinking,
Hmm.
oh, I want to try the higher level. I want to try the next level and
Hmm.
trying to get the experience and the learning and the certificates and the licenses to do it.
Hmm.
So I'd
Yeah.
say maybe 10 years before I joined this team.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Mhm.
more opportunities in the game than ever, for sure. The way we've seen, like, I was looking at the WPSL teams from just, 5, 6 years ago. And, to be honest, I didn't start covering the women's game here intently, until a few years ago. And so even I was ignorant to the fact that, there was just a few teams. Like, it was like they were having to go to Milwaukee, there, whatever. Now it's a thriving, 10 team, hyper local, like high level, league, and so it means there's more people who can become coaches at the level. So that's cool.
Mhm.
And it's not as if you had it's not the most traditional path to becoming a high level coach. So I think that's kind of cool. I like that. How does the partnering with Dutch Lions, from your perspective, of course there's resources, there's
Mhm.
shared knowledge, but you as the coach, I mean, you're wanting to develop players to become potentially pros or whatever their next step is, and you want the team to win, but I know you also just you care about the soccer overall. How does the partnering with Dutch Lions just directly benefit your soccer on the field and what you're able to do as a coach?
Mhm. So we've been observing the Dutch Lions for a couple of years and hearing about them a lot of times from previous players that they would mention them that they have school teammates or roommates who played for other Dutch Lions teams and they had an excellent experience that they might want to try it. And that made us take a closer look at them.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw what they're doing, what they're trying to do, and it aligned with what we are trying to do, and they are doing it at a bigger scale. So their
Mm-hmm.
tagline is that they are the gateway to professional soccer. Their main objective is to develop and showcase players to get them to become professional, and they have the network in the US and in Europe with a lot of clubs to be able to do that on a large scale. So they had more than 80 players from their previous seasons who turned professional. So this was something that, hey, we are doing that on a small scale in Rochester United, and we want to continue to do that. And they've been around since 2009.
Yeah.
They are following great standards in all their clubs. I think they always say we want people, when they look at any of our teams in currently it's 11 or 12 cities, that people would quickly recognize, oh, that's a Dutch Lions team from the style of play and what they're doing. So we started connecting with them and communicating and exploring what can you guys what do you think about us joining you, and what would that mean for us, and what is the support that you will provide for us? And they provide a lot of support in the technical side, in recruiting the players, in the overall professional experience. And for us coaches, like the development of the coaches, they help us connect with their coaches in Holland to follow the same methodology of coaching.
Yeah, well, it's exciting. I'll be interested to see the partnership, and maybe if it affects recruiting at all. I know at times there's been every team in Minnesota has a different philosophy in terms of when I talk about the semi-pro, like aspirational teams. It's a mix of, you recruit the best players you can. You also try to harbor local development, of players who are close to home. So that can be a challenge. You never know if the fit's going to happen. Dave, you're probably a part of that in terms of being someone who's experienced coaching in Southern Minnesota. You coach in Rochester a long time. And how much do you, for you becoming an assistant coach here, obviously, the game in the area, you've coached some of the players, I'm guessing you'd be recruiting, but how much do you think, there is an untapped potential or the ability to recruit? We're going to have a local player on later, but how much, do you think there's overlooked talent for you to bring in to help Minnesota Dutch Lions, and maybe your role in doing that?
Yeah, I ended up coaching the All-Star girls team this year in November, and met a lot of really good players that Minnesota has. There was two teams, an outstate and a metro team, and there were some good players there. So I was super impressed and excited to try this opportunity. So there's a lot of talent in Minnesota to try to pick from, and it's just kind of getting our name out there and letting the players know that there's another option available before they head off to college.
We like to talk about we had a brief chat before we started recording, but I asked Dave about a little bit of where he started playing soccer, playing high school soccer. But we always like to talk about this because it's only been 6 or 7 years that we've been doing equal time soccer. And even in that time, the game has exploded. There are twice as many pro teams. There's way more semi-pro teams. But Dave, for you, someone who's been in the game for a while, and you're getting involved with this team, kind of like I said, at the time when the game at this level is exploding at every part of the country. What are some memories maybe you have of the contrast of what the game was like back then, or just what is it about seeing the game grow that makes you happy or satisfied from all the time you spent when the game, maybe soccer, wasn't getting elevated in the way that it is now?
Yeah, I mean, when I started, we played with 2 fullbacks. Now there's 4 or more. If we got into trouble, we could play the ball back to the goalkeeper and he could pick it up.
Oh yeah.
So just that part of it is different. But now there's more of a trend towards players playing all over the pitch. So your outside fullbacks are now designated wingbacks, and they're just as likely to be down on the inside the opponent's penalty box trying to score a goal as they are being on the back line. And so there's a lot more rotation involved. The game is the dump and run game is no longer appropriate. It's more about tactical principles and tactical concepts, and it's a lot more thinking. The communication is extremely important, and it's very complex. And that's the biggest change. Before, you could just kick the ball and everybody runs for it. Now that doesn't work anymore.
I have some memories of that, Dave. Yeah, playing single A soccer in northern Minnesota. I think there were some bad tactics employed. I can relate. But a little, I want to get people a sense of your background in the game. Bassem, you grew up in Egypt. What are your favorite memories or earliest memories of playing soccer? And I'm guessing you called it football. I don't know what it is, in the appropriate language. But yeah, what are your earliest memories of the game, and how did you start playing?
Yeah, so I was talking to you before we started. It's the biggest sport back in Egypt, and everybody plays it. The little kids during school recess, anytime we have any few free minutes, we play soccer together. Play in the streets, play on the beach, and we learn it this way more than joining a team and learning in a practice. So that was different for me. Like, I learned soccer that way, not being on a formal team. And I started coaching when I moved to the US, first with my kids. And at that time, I thought, okay, I have a lot of knowledge about soccer, but I've never seen what a soccer practice looks like. So when I watched my little kids practices, okay, I know more than this coach. I just need to learn how they're teaching it this way, and grow from there. It was a lot of fun playing back there, and especially that you don't get the family support like here. You get extracurricular activities that counts towards college or getting scholarships. There was nothing like that, so you're playing, and it's not encouraged by the family, unless you are a total failure in school and they don't care, which I wasn't. I grew up
Yeah,
without
no,
being here, and yeah.
Bassem's got an adult job. He's not just piecing another coach. He has a real job in the daytime. But yeah, it is cool that you've been able to become a soccer coach in that way. It leaves me open to believe the possibilities. I don't know if anyone wants me to coach them, but I'm so good at FIFA, Bassem, they need me.
And I'm surprised, like, now when I'm talking with the Dutch Lions people, they start talking to me like, do you want to do this full time, because we can get you to that level. You can at some time become a full-time coach and coach professionally in Europe or something. So not only the players are getting those opportunities, us coaches might as well.
Well, no, and it's seeing the WPSL grow, and of course you have the W League, which has Rochester FC in it. Like I talk to the people about it. Like, coaches who get opportunities, we're getting the opportunity too. Like, I get to be a dork who talks about soccer in the area because there's a lot of soccer to talk about. So that's cool for all of us. Dave, what was your very first coaching gig?
Oh, well, yeah, I think when my son was 6, so that was 1986, and I just like Bassem, I was watching the coach and watching this long line of kids standing there, and pretty soon they're pushing each other, and nobody's really doing anything. And I'm thinking, I can probably do a whole lot better than this. So I volunteered, and I like keeping those kids active. So I don't have dull practices. So that was when it started. Yeah.
After doing that, when was the first one where it was like, you became a high school coach, or it was like then a step up from that? Because you coach in Rochester a long time, we talked about, but because lots of parents, dads and moms, coach their kids and stuff. They've never, my dream's always been to coach Little League, and I've never played baseball because I think it would be very funny. So lots of parents become coaches, but then you became a coach as kind of a gig, right? When did it become real for you?
Yeah, my daughter, when she was 10, wanted to play traveling. So
Yeah.
I coached her traveling team, and then when she was in seventh grade, she wanted to try out for the male high school varsity, and they had a ninth grade coaching job open. So I
Okay.
applied for that and got that, and figured, okay, well, I'll coach her there. But she made the varsity that year, so I ended up not coaching her there, and so that was the first job I had. Was the ninth grade girls coach at Mayo, and then the next 2 years I was the JV coach, and then the next 9 years I was the varsity coach.
All right, man. I love that. I kind of actually, I really enjoy, we talk to a lot of players where, of course, like it's kind of typical, right? It's like they play high level club soccer, they get recruited to D1, they try to become something, or it's like coaches we talk to, they played high level soccer, they kind of like became a grad assistant, and then it's like, so both of you guys actually came into it a bit more naturally, which I think is interesting and cool, because that's one thing about the expanding game. Like there's so many more teams, so there's more room for people to get these opportunities. Because I'm sure, Dave, like when you're coaching and when you're playing soccer in the decade you played high school soccer, and I don't have to say the decade, you wouldn't have thought I'm going to be a semi-pro soccer coach, like helping girls go pro. There wasn't even pro women's soccer. It was still banned in England at the time, so it's fun for me to see the contrast. Bassem, talk about soccer in Rochester. We joke a lot on Equal Time because between the men and women's game, and of course I'm unfamiliar with the youth setup and the high schools as much, but in the area I follow in terms of like college semi-pro leagues that we call them, pre-professional, Rochester is dense. It's like Southern California or Florida. There's multiple women's teams, there's been multiple men's teams, there's been a bit of shifting in that, kind of settling in. Talk about having a competing team like Rochester FC is in Rochester, right? Different leagues, so that makes it different. But is there a friendly rivalry? I mean, of course you're competing to like sell tickets, quite frankly, and everything else. But what makes the two teams different? How is it operating in a town that all of a sudden has become this kind of like density for these type of teams? You're still on mute, Bassem. Sorry. You're being professional. I respect. That's nice.
Yeah, sorry.
You're good.
Yeah, so I think it goes back to when we started. I think I just researched it that Rochester had men's semi-professional teams starting from 2008, and at some point there were 2 or 3 men's teams, all before any women's teams existed in the area. Not just Rochester, all of Southeast Minnesota. So that was the vision of our founder of Rochester United, Mr. Matthew Fathy, that he wanted to give the same opportunity to women. So we were the first women semi-pro team in the area in 2019. We wanted to provide this opportunity to the local players, that you don't have to. It was the idea that if you're too good, you shouldn't stay in Rochester. You should start driving 5 times a week to the cities. And we wanted to change that. We wanted to, you should be able to get high level training and competition in Rochester. So since 2019, we had a couple of seasons. At that time, Rochester FC, and there was Med City at that time. Both of them were men's only. Then Rochester FC, in the last 2 years, they added their women's team, which is in a parallel league. Both leagues are very competitive and very professional, and it's a good option for the players to be able to pick and choose which one fits me better, which one fits my goals. I think the CEO of our Dutch Lions says if you go to any city in downtown, you find 20 restaurants. it's all for the better of the customer to pick what they want. We shouldn't think of it as I need to eliminate those guys, or I need to badmouth them so that I succeed. We can all work and try to improve so that we provide a better option for the players. I think for us, we like for our WPSL league, at least in this conference, that it's very close. All the competition is within like less than 2 hours. I don't want to badmouth the USL, but if you're in the same conference in USL, you're driving 5-6 hours to each game, which for people like me and Dave who are not, this is not our day job. I don't want to travel 5-6 hours for each game. It's the same level of competition. In the WPSL, the team that won the conference, our conference every year, they go very far in the national competition. The Salvo almost won it in 2023. They lost in the stoppage time. So, and still Salvo didn't win the conference the next year. So there are a lot of teams who are competing, and we can get a lot from that competition.
Yeah.
Some echo.
Yeah, I don't know on which end it is. It might be on yours again. But no, we've seen it grow significantly in terms of, like I said, all the teams in WPSL. Sorry, Dave, I just muted you. I think it was echo on yours. I don't know what it is, but yeah, no, it's we get to watch those runs in the WPSL playoffs, and Sioux Falls City just moved into the W League, so it'll be interesting to see how they compare. But no, I mean, watching the top level games in the league is always so satisfying. It's I will say, anecdotally, the WPSL teams, of course, have a lot of visiting players as well, but it does feature a lot of Minnesotan clubs. And so we see, for us at Equal Time, who followed the college game and Minnesotans playing around, we get to see the density of talent, both from D1 and D2. The WPSL is a really good proving ground for NSIC players, the Northern Sun Conference, which we're going to talk to one very soon. And so, yeah, it's exciting for us and you see people go pro, right, from these leagues. And that's ultimately kind of the goal of all of us, right? Because that's what we want to see too, because we get to hype up players. Dave, I'm curious for you, because I grew up in northern Minnesota. I didn't have any team to root for. I'm younger than you, but I still didn't have any club team to root for, whatever. Do you have a favorite soccer team? What is it? Or do you have a favorite player that you like to watch and root for?
I just watch whatever's on.
Okay.
I don't have favorites. I just really enjoy the sport, and whatever's on TV, I'm watching it.
Okay, right on. Yeah. I mean, do you find yourself when you're watching taking it into coaching mindset? Or are you able to just watch it for fun?
No, I'm watching it through the coach's eyes. I like to see the strategy and how it plays out.
I love it. Yeah, it's hard to turn off.
Analyze it.
Well, I joked with you guys before. I'm a huge soccer fan. I love watching it. I end up viewing it in a bartender's eyes because I'm a soccer bartender. So I'm more, when is the game? Do I get to work for the game? So yeah, then I get skewed and I really care more about that. But so before we close out, we're going to get to, with the coaches, we're going to get to the players, the main event. But I wanted to ask you, so Bassem, we talked before, but give you a chance to shout out your favorite team from Egypt, because we need people to get on Wikipedia and become fans.
Yeah, so my favorite team in Egypt is called Al Ahly. They win the equivalent of the Champions League in Africa almost every year, and they make it to the Confederation Cup. I think they get like third place almost every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The tickets are really, the Club World Cup is here this summer, Bassem. The tickets are insane. But are you did you look? Are they in the Club World Cup this summer? I didn't look, to be honest.
I haven't checked, and
the tickets are a lot, so you might not watch. You can watch on TV though.
For a long time, it's been in Japan, and it's a struggle to wake up with the time difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe you'll get your chance. But yeah, I appreciate getting to get some insight from the coaches. Certainly will help us watch with a more informed eye this summer. Thank you very much, Bassem, and thank you, Dave, for joining. I'm going to swap out and get the players in here after we ask our sponsors for a little more support. But thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
Thank
Look
you for
forward to
having
the
us.
season. All right. Thank you guys. I'm going to give a shout out before I bring the players in. Shout out to Pence Homes. You can see they're our sponsor. They've been a sponsor for years. Nate Pence was hanging out with me at the Blackheart Bar just the other day, and we had to watch Man City lose. Sorry for that, Nate. But Nate has been a wonderful realtor to many of my friends and people I know. I'm living in a Pence house. He and Lydia are able to match whatever your needs are. They will get your, and if they can't help you, if you're looking for something that they can't do, they'll refer you. They'll find someone. So they have been a longtime sponsor of ours. Thank you so much to Pence Homes. We continue to support you because you support women's soccer. So thank you to them. Let's bring in the players for the main event. I have Delaneyt. It's a great name, Delaney. It's tough. It's the Googles come up with some random things when you include in a name search. And then we have Savannah Maley. Thank you guys for joining. All right. So, and Savannah, I had a stress reaction because one of the things I do, I wouldn't expect you to know anything about equal time soccer. One of the things we do is cover all the Minnesotans who play D1, and then we cover the colleges here. And so I pulled up the roster and it said you're from Rochester. I'm like, shit, I didn't track Savannah this year at Arizona State. You're from Rochester, Illinois. So you've had a journey. You said you played, ECNL and stuff in the Missouri, Illinois area. But so first of all, you ended up at Arizona State, but then you ended up on Rochester in Minnesota. So was it a bad Google that you found Rochester here? How did you end up on this team? I think you're muted. Or you were. Let's see. We could hear you before. Interesting. No, I can't hear you. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe just double check your mic and I'll ask Delaney a question. But yeah, I don't know. I could hear you when we checked in before. Delaney, so this is something we mentioned before the show too. I'm from a hyphenate school. I'm from a triple hyphenate, Walker, Hackensack, Akeley. I love that you're from, relatively small town, Casson, Mentorville. You're the Comets with a K. What is that? What's a Comet with a K?
It's just our mascot. I mean, we're the since I'm from Casson, it has to be with a K, I guess.
There you go. How big of a town? Because southern Minnesota is one place. Like in northern Minnesota, it would be hard pressed for me to not know a town. But I don't know where Casson is. I know it's close to Rochester. How big is Casson? What's the population?
Yeah, it's about like 2,000.
There you go. Cool. Well, shout out to the Comets. I'm sorry I wasn't aware of you before. But yeah, you're in the midst. And also, I know you're when you first Google Delaney, the first story is about you being a triple threat athlete, playing all three sports, but you picked soccer, right? But you're in basketball season. How's your performance in the basketball season going? Talk to us about the Comets B-ball.
Yeah, it's good. I'm really enjoying it. We have lots of seniors this year, and we've just have had a good overall season so far.
Mm-hmm. What are your stats like? What are you most proud of? Scoring? What do you get the most out of it playing basketball?
I'm big on defense. I usually guard their top or second top player on the team and score little points and get steals here and there.
Nice. I do think like in all of sports, there's rarely a better feeling than totally blocking someone's shot or like getting a pure steal. Yeah, it is pretty good. I didn't score enough goals to really know what that felt like, but if I scored more goals, I might relate. Savannah, I want to see if I can hear you now. No, dude, that's annoying. I'm sorry, bud. I can't. Yeah. I'm sorry.
The heck?
Wait. Oh, now I can. Wait. Weird. It cut in and cut out.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Okay.
It's like connecting the audio through my phone. I'm not sure what's going on.
It's all good. Look, I'm using a brand new laptop. I have a ring light as if I'm an actual YouTube person. It's insane. So trust me, before this, I took 10 minutes with Bassem to get my technology to work. So when we were just chatting, so no judgment at all. I'm a washed up tech guy, but how did you end up playing in Rochester in the WPSL now for the Dutch Lions?
So I was just scrolling through my DMs one day and I got a message from Rochester United and I was like, who are these guys? Like I was really wanting to stay like in the Arizona area. I wanted to play for like Del Sol because our coach has like connections through there. And so I was like, oh, I'll probably just stay in Arizona, whatever. And then I was looking through my DMs and I had a message from him and I was like, okay, I'll try it out. And so then I jumped on a Zoom with Bassem and Matthew and then the host family that I stayed with. And we just like kind of talked details, talked like, you know, what everything's going to happen. And then it all just kind of worked out that way. So
had you played, I mean, you'd been playing club soccer, but had you played in WPSL or a comparable like league like that before?
No, I've only ever played ECNL. That was it.
So
yeah.
By the way, these stories add up. There's who is it? Someone got onto, I think, Minnesota Aurora or one of those teams. It might have actually been one of the WPSL teams. But I hear these stories where someone said, oh, a friend just like DM'd me. It was like, oh, maybe you should go to this tryout. And like, coaches and people on teams DM the players clearly because that's how like make the connection. That's what I mean. It is funny because it's like you'd never thought about being in Minnesota or anything. You're just like, well, they want me and it's were you before that? What were you going to do in the summer? Because you joined leading up to your freshman year or after your freshman year at Arizona State?
It was after my freshman year. I joined like that summer after. This past summer.
Before that DM, what were you planning to do? Just train or were you trying to find a team?
Well, I was in like the conversation with like my coaches and we were just talking about like different options that I could have had. And we were mostly just looking at like Arizona, like Del Sol or like FC. I think it was like FC Tucson, maybe just
there's
anywhere.
So many teams. Yeah,
so many teams over here. And so I was like, I'll probably just stay like West Coast ish. And then it just randomly happened one day. And then I went out to my coaches. I was like, do you know anything about this club? And they were like, not really, but you never know. And I was like, okay. And so then I jumped on a Zoom meeting and that was pretty much it. Yeah.
Well, you came back for another year, so that's good.
I think Bassem may have watched like a live stream or something of like one of my games, and then he reached out like after that. But yeah.
Hey man, way to make the reach out. Yeah, I love that. And also, yeah, I mean, we love asking people who aren't from Minnesota because we're so proud of ourselves, and our whole site is about amplifying like Midwest women's soccer, and we're kind of we're like insecure in Minnesota. We're like, we have Prince, we have Lizzo, like we have to tell you what we're good at. What did you know about Minnesota before? The first thought you had it's the summer, I mean, so it's gorgeous, but in your brain, what did you know about Minnesota?
Well, I went on a couple visits in Minnesota, like prior to like committing. I went to University of Minnesota for a visit actually. So I've been a couple times to Minnesota, but yeah, I mean, I only know it's cold. I know it's cold there. I know about the Mall of America. That was just about it, honestly.
Is that it? You hadn't seen Mighty Ducks?
No.
Younger than me. Yeah, they didn't have to watch Mighty Ducks. that's yeah. See, look at me trying to amplify something from Minnesota. And then I mean, obviously you're here in the summer. I mean, it's hot. Like people from other states too will be like, "It's hot there." You're like, "Well, yeah, in the summer it's really hot. Really humid. We have all the water." But I mean, what was both maybe positive or negative like reactions to actually coming? And you're like, "Oh shit, it's 100 degrees." Not in Arizona.
Oh, it's so hot here. I mean, but I was like kind of not like culture shocked, but like almost in a way because I came from like such a Tempe is just so like big and so busy and like, all the time. The place that I stayed at was super like secluded, like away from everybody. It was like a little like, just felt like so small town vibes, like from where I'm from, like at home. So it was like a culture shock of like, oh my gosh, it's like I'm back home. So it was really nice, like I'm from the Midwest as well. So I get like the humidity and, it's
right.
But yeah, I enjoyed it. I loved it. I loved the host family that I stayed with. Yeah, I didn't really have anything negative to say about it while I was there. It was honestly a great time. So
Man, I want a host family to have a fridge full of food for me, man. These players in the host families.
it was
Yeah.
great. It was great.
It's not bad. Yeah, shout out to the
Mhm.
host families who make the summer leagues work for sure. Delaney, so we like to ask this too. When people get awarded things, like you were all Rochester Post Bulletin, right? Like the area, all area. I'm sure you maybe have some other awards that I didn't Google well enough. I want to know, did they at least give you like a free subscription to the Rochester Post Bulletin, or did they give you a certificate? What'd you get for being all area?
Well, I actually already had a subscription to it. I feel
That's
like
that. There we go.
everyone in my town does, I guess. But
they got to give you one for when you go to college at Augustana. You got to be staying up on the Did they give you a certificate though?
yeah, I got a certificate and a nice plaque, and of course,
Okay, good. Nice. We have too many awards where players don't even get something novel like that. And so, spoiler alert to our followers, we have decided to give out, just players aren't getting enough hardware, actual hardware. And this is not for Delaney or Savannah, so I'm not misleading them, but there is an Equal Time Player of the Year award being given out for the first time this year, because we were like, F it, let's buy a trophy and give it. So someone, and it wouldn't be a surprise, but it's one of the players that became a professional after their college season, will be receiving it, and hopefully we'll have a nice picture. I saw the trophy this morning. It's it's kind of like the World Cup trophy, to be honest. But yeah, Delaney, you are committed to Augustana. We do a lot of NSIC talk on here. We'll end up every year we end up doing either conference tournament or NCAA tournament watch along. So I kind of get a dense dose of the NSIC, and it's really fun. I mean, there's players literally. Jenny Vetter from Minnesota State is playing pro right now and played at NSIC. So there's a certain standard, and also I should say Mackenzie Rath played at Minnesota State. Was at Aurora too. There's a hat somewhere in the background, and she at a time in the Super League as well, or NWSL, I forget. But how did you end up committing to Augustana? What were the other schools? You're still in high school, so maybe you don't want to say, but what were the other schools you considered aside from Augustana?
Yeah, I guess I considered basically other schools in this area, bunch of different levels, and I just found that Augustana had the perfect fit of both academic standards and athletic standards, and of course, I liked their coach and the players with that too.
Yeah. How long? When did your recruitment start? Like, when do you remember getting your first letter from a team? I'm sure, or I'm not. Is it letters or is it emails now? I don't even. To be honest, I don't. Yeah. How did it start? And then when did you try to wrap it up in a certain timeline because you kind of wanted to focus on being done with it? How did it go for you?
Yeah, so I didn't know for sure if I wanted to play or not.
Right.
And I just started going to a bunch of different camps, ID camps, to visit all these colleges. Probably like I started. But then I think I wanted to wrap it up by the end of my junior year. So that's when, I would say April, my junior year, is where I kind of decided, yes, Augustana is the right choice for me.
Mm-hmm. Did you actually, because the NSIC, you can actually kind of watch replays of games and stuff. I mean, mostly I would guess you get it from talking to players, talking to the coach, you get the feel. But did you actually go and watch games of theirs? Because it would, it could help. It could also be 10 hours of, the wrong games to watch or something. But did you, I'm curious. I never asked recruits that.
Yeah, I was actually able to watch a bunch of games online, so I never needed to go in person to watch.
Yeah. But you did watch a bunch of games?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be did it affect then? Were you bringing that to ask the coach about, where you would fit tactically, or was it more you just wanted to understand how they play, or was it you watching to then maybe ask questions about things?
Yeah, it was kind of just to understand how they play and how they use their formation to win their games, I guess.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, they're a good school. I wish we're going to be, but you could potentially get an equal time bump at some point, Delaney, maybe at your first game. We do pick the most succeeding players, so then we end up getting equal time bumps where then the people scored, but we interviewed the player who's already scoring goals, so it's a bit of a, we can't take too much credit, but it does happen. I want to ask you, so Savannah, how did you end up, sorry, I muted you because there was just a little echo, but how did you end up at Arizona State? I mean, Delaney just, or like you said, you got the DM to go to play in Rochester. I'm guessing it was more substantial to be recruited to the Sun Devils.
So I playing ECNL, like we went to so many college showcases, like all the time, like
right.
Sophomore, junior, senior, like all the time we would go to college showcases. And right. I had a very good San Diego college showcase and ended up getting phone calls on my way home from multiple schools, and Arizona State was one of the ones that I got a call from, and I actually ended up declining. I told them I didn't want to go there, and then in January.
Why was that initially?
It was too far away for me. I really wanted to stay in the Midwest. Wanted to play like Big Ten. I had like a couple Big Ten offers. I just wanted to stay in the Midwest, and then I ended up tearing my ACL January of my junior year, and that kind of just put it all into perspective for me. And things started like moving around in ways that like I didn't expect. And and then my head coach had reached back out to me after I tore my ACL. He was at the game that I tore my ACL in, and he reached back out to me. He was like, I just want to let you know that your offer still stands on the table. Like, we still want you here. Then I went on a visit the next month, and I was pretty much just sold, just like being wanted, that was just such a very good feeling. And going there on campus and like meeting all the girls, as soon as you stepped on campus, I was just like, wow, I love it here. So that's kind of why. Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, yeah, I will say, I mean, if I like when I joked about, I mean, you're from Illinois, so me asking you what you thought about Minnesota is not as funny as when it's people from like Texas and stuff. But when I think about Arizona, man, I do just think about like spiders and hot desert and AC and sweating. Yeah, it's like, but I'm sure, but it gets cold at night, right, Savannah? Isn't that what you guys say? Yeah, that's what.
that's what they say. It gets like 90 at night in the summer, it's pretty cool.
A breeze, yeah.
Yeah.
How did, you were oh, sorry, no, I wanted to ask, so has it been your goal, like, so when I was a little kid, I did have a dream. I remember being young enough to have this dream and not be dumb, but I was like, oh, I want to play in the NBA. Like, there wasn't a soccer league for me to dream about playing in, really. And that was insane. But did you guys grow up, so I'll ask you first, Savannah, did you grow up wanting to be a pro soccer player?
Yeah, I wanted to play for the U.S. team. I wanted to be Carly Lloyd more than any person in the entire world.
Carly Lloyd, okay.
I was like super fan, watched her all the time, and I wanted to play for Team USA. That was like my goal. But like growing up, like as I got older, I started watching more soccer, and I think I started watching more like NWSL. And so then, I started like becoming more real that it could be a possibility. And then I have so many international friends that play, for like Chelsea or like Arsenal, like it, and I just like broadened my horizon. Like once I got to college, I think, and I still hope to play pro one day.
So you just kind of dropped. What do you mean you have friends who play for Chelsea and Arsenal, Savannah? What are you talking about?
my teammates are all mostly international. There's 18 out of 30 girls on the team that are international, and so they all play on. Yes, yeah.
Like they played you're saying they played their growing up like in the system, or you've had players who you played with like, go to play. Yeah.
Like their U18 team,
okay.
Academy teams, like who will eventually go back and.
I understand.
Yes.
I thought you were just flexing, like, no, my friend plays for Arsenal. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking? What?
No.
I mean, look, we meet more and more pros every day. Minnesotans are going everywhere, so now you're in the loop as an honorary Minnesotan, Savannah. So if you go to play at Arsenal, better believe we're going to interview you afterwards. But Delaney, did you grow up? I mean, you play other sports too. I know Savannah did as well. But did you grow up wanting to be a professional soccer player or like a professional basketball player or an Olympian in track and field?
I guess I wouldn't say professional, but I knew I always wanted to play sports throughout as much of my life as I could.
Yeah. You didn't, even when you were a kid, when you're like, oh, like I said, like, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do the NBA. You're 5'10", like I'm a little white dude. You didn't have, that wasn't one of your like dreams of what you do later as being a pro athlete?
I mean, honestly, it was probably like a year or two in elementary school where I really thought I'd play in the NBA. So
Yeah, I only had that when I
we're
was like
bad,
8. Yeah.
but
And then I wasn't good on the 5th grade team. And so then I learned, I'm like, let's check it down and be in choir, my dude. That's funny. But how is it? I mean, the reason I asked that too is because even in the time we've been doing equal time stuff, it has changed a lot. So we have the USL Super League, we have a Canadian league coming in. NWSL is expanding a lot. Like every new team, it's 22 more spots. There's been so few pro spots in America for women to play. And of course, you can go to other countries and you have to try to find your fit. But has it, like for you, Savannah, who you said like you were thinking about it, everyone has the dream when they're a kid, but now it's not a crazy, you playing at Arizona State, you playing for Minnesota Dutch Lions, it's not crazy to have that goal now. Like how different is it now as opposed to when it was like a kid thing?
Well, I think like watching some of my teammates like become pros just like overnight, it like put into perspective like that it is very possible for it to happen at any moment, you know? Like I've had 2 or 3 teammates just this past season go and sign like pro contracts in Europe. So it's like
Nice. Shout them out. Who are they? Name names. Who are they? Shout them out.
Lucy Johnson, Gabby Rennie. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think of the other one. She transferred out. Yeah.
Too many to remember.
Too many. Yeah. There's a lot. They're coming up. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just made it so much more like real watching like my own teammates like become pros that it, you know, makes me want to become a pro now. So
it was, yeah, for people who follow our stuff, and I'm sure they maybe are aware of this, but like I did a year-end D1 Minnesotans recap. And maybe I have to make an honorable mention list to include the semi Minnesotans like Savannah. But this unprecedented this year for Minnesota players, after the college season, and they limited the draft, which gave some more freedom to players to find their fit, and for teams, by the way, to find the right players. We had 3 players signed to get not camps, not like training opportunities, guaranteed multi-year contracts with NWSL. So those Claire Gagne, Maddie Delaneyt, and Kaya Harper. So we are in a phase of that was cool for us. And it's just a phase shift of like, we have players playing pro all over, we have players in Europe, but obviously we don't have them at the highest levels. And so it's a fun time to see players get the chances. And I'm really excited for the Canadian League to start too. Delaney, how do you consume soccer like as a fan? Because I joked, but you know, I'm a huge fan. I watch a lot of soccer, but I'm a bartender for soccer games too. So it becomes more like, oh, cool, there's a game on I work for. So it is rare that I actually just consume the game for fun. Do you consume the game for fun, or like, and what do you end up watching if you're just being a soccer fan?
To be honest, I think I play way more soccer than I watch.
Yeah.
But I guess if it's on the TV, I'll be watching it, or I've gone to some professional men's games, and it's just a really cool atmosphere to be in.
It is. I mean, it's different. Every player is different. Where it's like some people like just go watch the game all over. And I don't think it's a thing of talent. Like certain players just need to disconnect. Certain players want to stay in it. So it's interesting because I have found after being a soccer bartender and consuming a lot of it passively in my life, always, I play a lot less FIFA because I'm getting so much soccer already. I'm like, I don't need this anymore. Who's your Savannah kind of said this, but who's your favorite soccer player, Delaney, or a team if you don't have a specific favorite player?
I wouldn't say I have a favorite team or a soccer player. It's just whoever's making those moves at the time.
Is there any player you try to like, or you try to emulate, or like want to play like, or you would, if a college coach was recruiting you, did you have to like give a comp of like, I'm kind of like this, or something like that?
No, I didn't. But every once in a while, I'll try to copy like Ronaldo or Messi's moves and try to recreate it at home.
Sure, yeah. My ankles hurt just thinking about trying to do that. You were talking about Savannah. You did have an ACL recovery, which is intense. I've had that as an adult, never as like a teenager and also like in the prime of when you're actually like athletics is a huge part of your life, what was the like positive or silver lining you took from that? Or like I'm sure you had to get an attitude, but like what were the goods that came out of it? Because obviously there was a lot of bads, but I'm sure it toughened you up in certain ways. But like, what did you take out of that?
I think it like allowed me to like see the sport in like a different way. Just like sitting on the sidelines and not being in, I got to like learn like my position like a bit better. And I think it honestly helped me like in the future. Like I only ever wanted to play striker, and then like watching now I love playing in the center. Like I love playing midfield. I mean, I would have never seen myself as like a midfielder in my entire life. I wouldn't have like sat back and watched. And I just feel like it like suits me a bit better in the midfield. But yeah, no, I think just seeing it in a different way, soccer in a different way, is what I would take away from it.
Yeah, well, because you're forced to. Yeah, I mean, you could not do it. You could just be better, but like that is what you have to try to do out of it. I had a broken ankle a couple years ago, and I was like, I don't know what I took out of that except being humbled because I wasn't learning about being a player. I just had to not work. But what is it about? I mean, where do you play in the midfield? What type of role are you just shifting into being like an attacking 10, like false 9, or are you more a box to box? Like, what do you do in the midfield?
I would prefer to be like a 6 or an 8. Honestly, I like sitting like right in front of the defense, like being able to watch the players in front of me, but I don't want to be the last line. I don't like that role. I'm just not the greatest defender, but I just think that it's like it helps me like see the field better, and I can like see where to play, and just I think I've gained like much better like vision from playing in that role. I tried to play it in summer league a bit, but my coach here only ever really played me at striker and the 10. So I never really got to switch it up much. But yeah, I would say
you're like a facilitating. You're like a Rose Lavelle deep midfielder. Like I have her tattoo on my leg, so I bring up Rose Lavelle all the time. But yeah, that it's that facilitator. Yeah, she's great. Yeah. Delaney. I was gonna. Sorry. What? I'm sorry, I'm looking through my notes here. So how did you picked Augustana in terms of like the fit, but what is your dream to become a professional soccer player, or do you have like a career focused aspiration of why you picked Augustana?
Yeah, to me, I mean, I still have at least 4 more years of playing college soccer, so professional soccer seems really far away right now, but I guess just take it 1 year at a time and try to get better every year and then see where that takes me.
Yeah. Well, that's what, honestly, when we interviewed Jenny Vetter, who went to Minnesota State, she was being honest, I think. I asked her because she signed a pro deal this year and she was playing for Spokane. Shout out. She also had an ACL, I think, or some knee thing. So then they got sistered with her. But she truly, I mean, and I get it because like leagues, the growth is very rapid. I mean, like the fact that we're seeing, the Super League starting was like all of a sudden a doubling in roster spots in the US. So it is a very different landscape. So it's fun for us to watch. And yeah, also fun to get to know you guys in advance of the season. I did want to ask you, so we'll start with you, Delaney, in terms of, honestly, most teams in the Summer League, the goal is it's player development. It's things aside from, say, winning a title, because it's kind of people developing, looking over, but what are your goals for, this will be your opportunity to play like in a different level before college. How do you think about your goals for the Minnesota Dutch Lions season, balancing both? Honestly, mostly it's players developing themselves in the context of the game, but like, how do you balance that in terms of also wanting to see the team kind of grow and take a step up in terms of, winning games helps you develop too. So how do you think about that as a player as you go into, your college journey?
Yeah, so this is my 3rd year playing for them, and every year it's been the highest level team I've been able to be a part of, and it just really helped me. It helped me see what level college I could play, first of all, and it really helped showcase where I need to be at to play against people at this high level, and sharpens both my speed, my goal scoring, my technical skills, and all of the above.
Do you remember, so you've been playing with them as a youngster, which is, it's a fun thing about these leagues too, is that high level teenage talent joins, experienced college players, sometimes former pros, like, like Salvo has former pros coming back, like Aurora, teams like that have former pros coming back. I'm sure maybe Rochester as well. But yeah, I can only imagine how much that gives you kind of perspective. Do you remember when there's an NBA kind of trend on social media where, like, do you remember the first time, like, welcome to the league moment? Do you remember going to training as a teenager? And if you want to give a player a shout out, do you remember like some player just running through you or like working you, or like, do you remember having a realization of like, oh, wow, this is the level?
Yeah. So the year before I joined, I went to a practice, and at that point I knew I wanted to be on the team, but I also knew I was going to need a lot of improvement to be at the level I am today. And going to need, especially to just gain more muscle and be able to compete with these people without just getting thrown to the ground.
Yeah, well, you're playing against grown women and you're still a teenager. How about Savannah? What are you've been with the team too for a little while, but you talked about wanting to play pro. So maybe in more specific detail, just what do you, when you focus in on, because it's really short, honestly, like the actual season is really short. So I do imagine you want to go in with some sort of focus of like, this is what I think I'll get out of this. I'll be better, how I might take the step to being a better player for Minnesota State, in the pros. What's your mindset and goals in terms of when you go into, this summer with Minnesota Dutch Lions?
So I'm not sure if you even knew this, but I had to redshirt this past year. I broke my ankle day 4 preseason.
I saw you didn't play. I didn't want to bring it up in case you just didn't play. I didn't know, so I didn't Google deep enough to know.
I had to medically redshirt. I got slide tackled by my own teammate, and she broke my ankle. But it was day 4 preseason, and so I think it's more of like not like confidence building, but like building myself back up to be able to play at like a high standard. That's kind of what I'm hoping to get out of the summer. I think like coming out of like my freshman year last year going into summer league, I needed like more of like a confidence boost just because I was being pushed around like as a freshman. I mean, I got decent playing time, but it was just like I wasn't a standout in college at all. Like the girls that I was playing against were way better than me, and it was like humbling, like they would say. But so I feel like I just needed a bit of a confidence like builder. So that was last year, and it's gonna roll over into this summer, honestly. I mean, I want us to be top of the league. I mean, that's like expectation. Like we were 7th, I think we ended last season. So and we were number 4 at one point. So I just don't want like there to be such a big drop. I'd rather us just stay in like top 3, top 4. But I think
it's a tough league to level up in because the top teams, and Sioux Falls City leaving helps a little because, to be honest, they're a really high achieving team too, about to go pro theoretically. So, but no, having Salvo and Thunder and all these teams, like they're dense with talent. Like Salvo, I mean, I think I watched a game and like 6 women had played pro. You know what I mean? It was like, and maybe they're, maybe it'd been a year or something, but it's wild. I mean, so no, it's fun for us. We always root for, being from greater Minnesota, from outstate. I like saying outstate, from north. I like seeing the teams in other communities thrive because, especially in Rochester, there's such a good mix of, you see it in the coaches and the ownership and some of the players, but it's, there's international, people who live there. There's different people involved in the game, and so that's really cool because sometimes the game can be a little gatekept. So we love seeing that. And in southern Minnesota, there's some other teams too, like on the men's side, that really take advantage. But thank you both to Delaney and Savannah for joining. Dave and Bassem, we're still watching in the wings. We appreciate you guys. We are excited to watch this coming season of Minnesota Dutch Lions, formerly Rochester United FC. Now we got clear branding. This is the Minnesota Dutch Lions. We're ready. So thank you very much to all of you. And we'll keep track this year. Thanks.
Thank you.